Personally, I knew that war had to be profitable in some sort of way because sadly, nowadays, governments, take for example the US government, do not necessarily care about doing things that could help their country or society. They care about things that generate profit, that helps them generate money. And since, for example, the US government invests so much money in wars and weapons, then I imagined it had to generate some profit in some way. However, I was impressed after seeing the Vice video about just how profitable of a business war is. I think it is absurd and kind of disgusting, honestly, how something that is so cruel and has generated so much damage for so many people can be can generate so much money, can be like this business that many people are apparently so like passionate about, like, especially the side of like the weapons, not necessarily the conflict. But yes, it makes a lot of sense now to see why, for example, the US government invests so much money in weapons and it destined many of their tax income towards. I think that yes, definitely we have systems and technologies that help the narrative of a war be one-sided. Maybe we don't have systems as sophisticated as the one we saw in the episode of Black Mirror, where the soldiers literally had their eyes controlled, so they saw the enemy as monsters. But for example, I think the easiest example to illustrate this is the way mass media reports on war conflicts. Obviously, the news network is going to be aligned with the thoughts of the country and who the other countries are, whether are allies, let it be like commercial allies or not. But aside from this, I think that we have, for example, video games such as Call of Duty that represent war in a very patriotic way, and it makes you feel that it is just really cool because there are no real life consequences, but it doesn't illustrate the parts of war that are, all the trauma and conflict and all of the consequences that we get from wars. So I think that they just exploit the patriotism side of it, and it makes war seem one-sided because the enemies are, for example, the Russians or something like that. But these kids become disassociated with the darkest topics of war. We can also see this, for example, in movies and many more things. I think that war has been like the go-to solution for all of these big scale conflicts among countries because we as humans are greedy. We like things to be the way we want it to be instead of trying to compromise or set aside differences or trying to understand someone else's ideology and where they come from. I don't think that war has ever been an effective solution for any conflict. I think that war just creates trauma and more violence, honestly, and it doesn't necessarily solves the issue at hand. It doesn't necessarily, for example, changes someone's ideology or makes the world be better, because after a war, what we get is crisis, poverty, a lot of dead people, a lot of hurt people, and a lot of traumatized soldiers who will never be the same way again. We can see this in the episode of Black Mirror, where after the soldier strike, after he found out the truth of who the alleged enemy was and all the violence that they did and all of this massacre that they were doing, he was traumatized at the violence he was capable of to do in another human being, and the way that the citizens, for example, of the town, even though they didn't have the implant in them, they called the other people roaches, and they were happy to see the soldiers fighting them and killing them because they had this ideology implanted in them that they were not good persons, that they deserved to die. So I just think that war causes this conflict and doesn't really ends up solving the issue. It just ends up really leaving a country suffering so much that they just put a stop at war to make it stop because they cannot take it anymore. So yeah, I think it is really sad that now in the 21st century, after all of the technology we have and how much we have advanced as a society in many many things, we still see war as something necessary and something that could be helpful in any way. Because I honestly don't think don't think it is helpful at all for anyone.